Welcome to my guide to the 2019 Key Stage 2 Grammar Punctuation Test. What I suggest you do is download this paper. The link will be in the description. Give yourself 45 minutes to do the test. Once you've done that, come back and watch this video, see if you got the marks, and also see where you may have gone wrong so that in the future you can work on it and get better for next time. Number 1, tick the sentence that must end with a question mark. So obviously we are just looking for the sentence that is a question. Now all questions tend to start with a question word such as what, how, why, where and did. And the one that fits that criteria in this question is the third one down. Did she play tennis on your team last year? So that is the answer. Number 2, draw a line to match each word to the correct suffix. The first one is accomplishment. The second one is forgiveness. The third one is joyful. And the last one is foolish. Number 3, tick one box in each row to show whether the sentence is a question or a command. A command is when we're being told to do something, and a question is when we're being asked something which requires a response. So looking at the ones we've got here, do your stretches before you exercise. That is a command. We're being told to do something. Do you prefer tennis or cricket? You'd need to answer that one, so that's obviously a question. Do the boys always go running in the morning? Again, that one is a question. And the last one, do take some water with you to football practice. That's a command. We're being told to do something. Number 4, insert one comma in the correct place in the sentence below. Every night, Dad and my brother take the dog for a walk. You should know that a fronted adverbial always needs a comma after it, and the first bit of the sentence here, every night, is a fronted adverbial. So we put the comma there, and then it would be every night, Dad and my brother take the dog for a walk. That natural pause there also indicates that a comma could be quite useful. Number 5, draw a line to match each prefix to the correct word to make a different word. The first one would be interaction. The second one would be disapproval. The third one would be semicircle. And the last one would be antisocial. Number 6, which sentence must not end with an exclamation mark? Now obviously we put exclamation marks at the end of exclamations, and they tend to be when we're exclaiming something like, wow, that's fantastic, or what a horrible day we've had, or you really need to do that. That would obviously need an exclamation mark as well. It might be that someone's shouting or someone's making it very clear that that's the important thing. So looking at the ones we've got, you really must wear a coat is going to need one. What a dreadful day is also going to need one. What is the temperature now? Well, that one is actually a question, so that one wouldn't need an exclamation mark, so that is our answer, the third one here. Just checking that. The last one, the wind is very strong today. Again, that could be something that you exclaim, so that could also end with an exclamation mark. So the third one is the correct answer. Number 7, it's testing your knowledge of standard English. So look at the ones that we've got, circle the correct word. Pass me those cartons, please. You sang that song very well. We always did our homework on time. Number 8, insert a relative pronoun to complete this sentence below. You should know that a relative pronoun tends to start with a W, but we also have the word that can be used as a relative pronoun. So words such as which we can use as a relative pronoun. There's no real shortcut to this, you just need to learn the list of relative pronouns. So the one that would work best here, everyone loved the music. Something was played last night. It would be that. Everyone loved the music that was played last night. Number 9, in which sentence is lock a verb? So we need to look at the sentence and see in which case is it being used as a noun and which case is it being used as a verb. So obviously the one that's a verb would be the correct answer. So looking at the first one, Aisha closed the box and fastened the lock. In this case that's a noun, it's just an object. Make sure you lock the gate before you leave. Now, there's actually an action there. That's the action part, is locking the gate. So that is the verb. You're doing something. So that one is a verb. Just double check the other ones. I think I need to buy a new bike lock. Again, that's just an object. That's a noun. The lock can only be opened with a special key. Again, we're just talking about an object there, which is a noun. So the second one is correct. Number 10, insert a semicolon into the correct place in the sentence below. Frank would like to go to Cornwall next summer. He might also visit France in the spring. What I tend to do with these questions is look for where's there a natural pause in the sentence, or could it be split into two sentences? And at that point, that's where I would put the semicolon. So reading it again, we're going to look for the natural pause. Frank would like to go to Cornwall next summer. He might also visit France in the spring. Those two could be sentences, couldn't they? Frank would like to go to Cornwall next summer, and he might also visit France in the spring. So that pause, where the two sentences could be split, is where the semicolon would go. So it would go after summer there. Number 11, insert a pair of brackets into the correct place. Using public transport such as buses and trains can reduce pollution. We're looking for that bit that gives a bit of extra information. So in this case it would be using public transport, open bracket, such as buses and trains, close bracket, can reduce pollution. That's your correct answer. Number 12, what does the prefix multi mean in the words multicultural, multi-purpose and multicoloured? Now just think, if you don't know this already, just think about what those words mean. Well, multicultural means there are many cultures there. Multi-purpose means that it has lots of functions, lots of purposes. And multicoloured means there are lots of colours. So we're looking for a word that means lots of. And in this case, it's many. So the prefix multi means the same as many. Number 13, which sentence is punctuated correctly? Now I can see a lot of dashes in this section. And what I tend to do if I see dashes is to just pause. And if the pause sounds unnatural, then it gives me an indication that it's probably not right. So if we read the first sentence, I will be running, we pause there, a half marathon 13 miles next week. That doesn't make much sense. That doesn't sound good to me. Next one, I will be running a half marathon 13 miles next week. Again, sounds ridiculous. I will be running a half marathon 13 miles next week. Again, that one just sounds wrong. So the last one we're hoping is the one that makes sense. I will be running a half marathon 13 miles next week. That sounds correct. That 13 miles, that's in a parenthesis there with the dashes. That's giving us an extra bit of information to the first bit. I will be running a half marathon. So that one is punctuated correctly. Number 14, which word is an antonym of difficult? The problem was difficult to solve. You should know that an antonym means the opposite. So what word have we got here which is an opposite of difficult? Hard, easy, impossible or challenging. The one that's opposite is easy. The opposite of difficult is easy. Number 15, which sentence is the most formal? Now, formal language, we always associate that with people of importance, such as the Queen, or if you were talking to someone who was very wise and very important in position. So that's something that you need to think about. But also, looking for other clues, things like contracted words, and what I mean by that is words such as wasn't. Those are things that we wouldn't tend to find in a formal sentence. They're more informal, what you'd use if you were talking to your friends, for example. So having a look at the ones we've got, the way they played was terrible, wasn't it? Doesn't sound too formal to me. I wish they'd put a little more effort in today. Again, not massively formal. Third one, if only they'd tried a bit harder, they would have won. Again, have you noticed that in all three of those sentences they have contractions? So the first one we have the word wasn't. Second one we have they'd. And then third one, they'd and would have. So that goes with my theory that if you see lots of contractions in there, it's not going to be formal. But looking at the last one, the team were defeated due to the mistakes that they made. There were no contractions in there. It also sounds a little bit more formal. They've used words such as defeated rather than lost. So we're using higher quality language. That one there at the bottom is the most formal. Number 16, tick one box to show where a hyphen is needed in the sentence below. Now you should know that a hyphen is used to sort of glue two words together so that they create a new word, if you like, that's linked. So looking at what we've got, we have the class teacher. If we were to put a hyphen in there, class teacher isn't a word by itself. It's not a brand new word, class teacher. Those two words need to be separate. The next one is well behaved. Now, if we were to put a hyphen in there, it would link the adverb well with the verb behaved, and it would put them together to make well behaved, which is a word that we could effectively use. So that one looks like it's going to be the correct one from my point of view. Looking at the next one, we have helpful group. Again, that one doesn't need a hyphen, and year 6 children, again, doesn't need a hyphen. That doesn't make much sense. So to put the hyphen in correctly, you would have need to have ticked this box here. Number 17, what word class is him in the sentence below? Joseph's friends rushed to meet him, desperate to see if he had won. You should know by now that words such as him and her and I are forms of pronouns, so that is the correct answer there. Number 18, circle two words in the passage below that are synonyms of each other. We've had antonyms already. Antonyms means the opposite, so synonyms means the same, words that mean the same. So we need to find two words in the passage that mean the same. Having queued for over an hour, Sanjit found that his tolerance was being severely tested. Most of the other children had lost patience and gone elsewhere. Now, based on the sentences we've been given, I can see that Sanjit found that his tolerance had been tested and children had lost patience. So the two words that I've noticed are the same, that are synonyms, are tolerance and patience. So those are the two that you would need to get the mark. Number 19, what kind of clause is underlined in the sentence below? If they could afford to, the ancient Romans ate well. Now you should know that there are a few types of clauses. Effectively, there's always a main clause in a sentence. That's a bit that makes sense by itself and can stand alone. And then we have something called a subordinate clause. That is needed to improve the quality of a sentence, add further information, but it doesn't make sense by itself. So looking at the two bits that we've got, we have if they could afford to, that's the one that's underlined. That doesn't make sense by itself. But the ancient Romans ate well, that's a fact, that's a main clause, that makes sense. So the other one then, because it doesn't make sense by itself and it's adding further information to the main clause we have, is actually a subordinate clause. So that's what you would need to have put to get the mark. Number 20, insert a dash in the correct place in the sentence below. Now we can use a dash to join two sentences together. So I'd be looking for a place where there is a natural pause. So let's read what we've been given. It was a very exciting lesson. We learned how parachutes work and designed one of our own. Now if you read that, there is a natural pause after lesson, isn't there? It was a very exciting lesson. We learned how parachutes work. So I'm inclined to put the dash there. And if you look at what we've got, we have it was a very exciting lesson. That would have been a full sentence by itself. We learned how parachutes work and design one of our own. That could also be a sentence by itself, and we've joined them together with that dash. So that's where it should go. Number 21, what is the word class of the underlined word? Our school is bigger than theirs. Now, we're showing that it's a possession here, because if that belongs to them, it's theirs. So we need to be finding something in this answer that shows possession. And if you look at the third one down, it says a possessive pronoun, and that's what it is. It's a possessive pronoun. Number 22, insert a colon in the correct place in the sentence below. Similarly to the dash, we can use this to join two main clauses together to make an extra long sentence. So looking at what we've got, Joshua had mastered 2 new skateboarding skills. He could do a perfect aerial jump and execute a complete 180-degree turn. When I was reading that, you'll have noticed there was a slight pause after skills. So that's where I would put the colon, so it will join the two sentences together. Joshua had mastered 2 new skateboarding skills is a sentence, and the rest is also a sentence joined together with the colon. Number 23, add 3 commas in the correct places in the sentence below. Looking at it very quickly, it looks like we have a list here. So if we're listing items, we need to make sure we have a comma after each one until the last one, which we use the word and to finish with. So let's have a look at what we've got. She wore a dark red skirt, a woolen jumper, a scarf with matching hat, thick socks and black boots. So listing the items then, it would be she wore a dark red skirt, that's one item, comma, a woolen jumper, next one, a scarf with matching hat, comma, and thick socks and black boots. So if we have a look here then, we've used the 3 commas, we end with thick socks, and because we're on to the final one here, we use and instead of a comma. So that's what you need to get the marks, all 3 in those exact places. Number 24, which sentence uses tense correctly? All we're looking for is a sentence that stays in the similar tense and makes sense, not jumping from one to the other. And the first one is the correct answer. We sat and ate our lunch once we had found a sunny picnic spot. That makes perfect sense. The others jump around. For example, the second one, once we find a sunny picnic spot, we sat. Now, once we find, we're looking into the future, and then we sat is in the past tense, so that doesn't make any sense. The first one is the correct one. Number 25, underline the sentence that is the most formal in the passage. We mentioned previously that formal language contains no contractions, and it uses more sophisticated language as if you were talking to someone perhaps in a business or someone of importance. So looking at what we've got, hope you can make it to my birthday party next week with an exclamation mark. That's quite informal. It's going to be great, again with a contraction at its. and an exclamation mark here, again, very informal. The venue is yet to be confirmed. Now that sounds very formal to me. Instead of saying the place hasn't been decided yet, we're using words such as venue and confirmed, which are much more formal, so that is the correct answer there. The venue is yet to be confirmed. Number 26, circle the word that shows that the sentence below is a command. Now we're looking for a verb. It's telling us to do something. It's an action. So looking at what we've got, to see pictures of the rugby match, click here. That's the bit there, click, telling us to do something. That bit makes it a command. Number 27, label each box with subject S or object O. So the subject of the sentence is who the sentence is about, and you can see from the sentence it's going to be about Sam. So Sam's baking cakes for charity. He sold them at break time. So Sam is the subject, so we can put an S under him. Now he baked cakes, so he's done something with these objects. That would be an O. He's done it for charity, and now we're referring back to Sam. We're saying he. So remember, he's the subject, so that's an S. And he sold them, well, he's selling the cakes, which is an object, at break time. So to get the mark, you need S-O-S-O. Number 28, rewrite the underlined verbs in the simple past. This one's nice and straightforward. The sky began to look darker as the storm approached. Number 29, which sentence is closest in meaning to the one below? My dad has had this bike for 2 years. Looking at what we've been given then, they need to be relevant to the sentence that we've been given at the start. So, my dad has had this bike for 2 years. If you imagine you were that child in that sentence there that's talking about this bike, it says, my dad has had this bike for 2 years. Well, if you picture that in your head, the bike is there. So he hasn't got rid of it. So this first one here, my dad no longer has this bike. It can't be that one. My dad is having this bike for his birthday, but he's already had it for 2 years. So that one also doesn't make any sense. My dad has this bike now. Well, that's true, isn't it? Because he's still got it. So it could be that one. And finally, my dad will have a bike in 2 years' time. Well, we don't know that, do we? He might be that he's going to get rid of it in a day's time. But at the moment, he has it. So it's this third one here. My dad has this bike now. Number 30, circle the 3 adjectives in the sentence below. You should know that an adjective describes a noun. It's known also as a describing word lower down the school. So have a look at some of these words here. Which words describe the nouns? Well, we have cobbled. That's describing the street. It's giving us some further information about the noun street. Striding like the bold and determined man he was. So describing the man, he's bold and he's also determined. So those are the 3 that you need to get the mark. Number 31, which sentence is punctuated correctly? You're looking at direct speech here. So you should know that before any speech starts, we always need a comma. And we also need inverted commas to open up the speech and inverted commas to end it. So the ones that fit the first bit of criteria are these 2 middle ones here, because we've got a comma before the speech starts. So the first one and the last one have to be wrong. So we've got to choose from this one. Our parents always say, now what do they say? Work hard and do your best. Because that's a new sentence, that's what they say, it needs a capital letter. So the one that's correct is this third one here, that one to get the mark. Number 32, which underlined word is an adverb? Now again, you should know that an adverb describes a verb. Now an adjective describes a noun, an adverb describes the verb. So looking at the ones we've got, the spring garden looks lovely. Now that word lovely that's underlined is describing the garden, and the garden is a noun. So that would be an adjective. The second one, my little sister has a wobbly tooth. Wobbly is describing the tooth, and the tooth is a noun, so that would also be an adjective, not an adverb. The third one, the clothes are folded neatly. Now it's describing how they are folded, and folded is a verb, folding. So that one would be an adverb. The clothes are folded neatly. Just to double check, look at the last one. Her brown hair is long and curly. Curly is describing the hair, which is a noun, so the third one must be right. Number 33, what word class do the underlined words belong to? You can have an apple or an orange for your snack, since it is sunny, and although I prefer oranges. You should know that all of those are examples of conjunctions. Or is a coordinating conjunction, and since and although are subordinating conjunctions. Unfortunately, if you don't know that, that's something you have to just go away and learn. I'll put a link in the description to different types of conjunctions so that if you didn't get the mark, you can have a look and improve your knowledge for next time. So the answer is conjunctions. Number 34, explain how the comma changes the meaning of the second sentence. Number 1, I asked if Jake, Thomas and Lily were coming to the barbecue. And the second one, I asked if Jake, Thomas and Lily were coming to the barbecue. Now to get the mark here, you've got to be very, very explicit. Make it really obvious that you understand what the comma's done. So if you look at the first one, it says, I asked if Jake, Thomas and Lily. Now, because there's no comma there, it looks like Jake Thomas is somebody's name. That's their first and their second name. I asked if Jake, Thomas and Lily were coming. But because we've got a comma on the second one, I asked if Jake, Thomas and Lily, it makes it look like they're inviting 3 people, Jake, Thomas and Lily, not 2 people like we think in the first answer. So in order to get the mark, you need to explain that the comma separates Jake and Thomas into 2 names, so there are 3 people coming. If you can demonstrate that, you get the mark. Number 35, underline the adverbial in the sentence below. Remember, if it's a fronted adverbial, it always starts at the beginning and it always ends in a comma. So this one fits the bill. Underline this one here, last week. You should also know that an adverbial describes when, where or how the sentence is taking place. So when did Ruby go swimming and play football? It was last week. So that fits the description there. Number 36, complete the sentence below with a relative clause. Like we mentioned previously, a relative clause always needs to start with a relative pronoun. So if you don't know those, go away and learn them. They always start with a W, except for one which starts with a T, and that's that. So there are several options here for this. We could say his sister, who loves languages, is learning to speak Polish. Now, as long as you've got that relative pronoun here, which I've got, who, you could have which or that, as long as it makes sense. And you've given some information that's relevant to his sister, then you'll get the mark. But you have to make sure that you've included that relative pronoun, otherwise you won't get it. Number 37, how does the conjunction change the meaning of the second sentence? Similarly to the question we've already had, we need to make sure it's very obvious that you understand what the conjunction is, first of all, and what it's done. So the sentence here, we listened to the music after we ate our lunch. The conjunction is after. And second one, we listened to the music while we ate our lunch. So obviously there's going to be a difference here. If you listen to music after you ate your lunch, you weren't listening to it while you were eating it. But the second one, you're going to be listening to music while you're eating the lunch. So that's during the lunch, while you're eating it, not afterwards. So you need to make it very clear again that because they've used the word while, they listened to the music while they were eating their lunch, not afterwards. Number 38, circle the modal verb in the sentence below. Modal verbs tend to give us the probability of how something is going to happen. So Kate hoped she would see goats and sheep at the farm. The word that we need here is would. That's a definite word. She hoped that she would see goats, not that she might see goats. She would. She wanted that to definitely happen. So that's the word we need there. Number 39, rewrite the sentence below in the passive. So we have the wind damaged the fence. This is an active sentence. The wind is doing something to the fence, which is the object. So we need to swap that around. So what we need to have is the fence was damaged by the wind. Number 40, insert 2 commas and a semicolon in the correct places in the passage below. Okay, this is a real test of your understanding of what commas and semicolons do. So looking at what we've got, last Wednesday. Now that is a fronted adverbial. It tells us when they performed the play at school. So that needs a comma after it. Last Wednesday, comma, we performed a play at school. Now, it should be that there's a full stop really there, but because we're moving on to something that's relevant again, I invited my parents to come and watch, we can use a semicolon to join those 2 sentences together. So that's where the semicolon goes. And finally, the last comma is going to be in this section here. When I first went on stage, that's the adverbial phrase, we put that after there. I was so nervous that I nearly forgot my lines. So in order to get the marks, you need the comma here after the fronted adverbial, the semicolon after school, and a comma here after when I first went on stage. Number 41, nice and easy, circle the 3 nouns in the sentence below. Remember, nouns are places, people or objects. The fire is the first one, the room is the second one, and the feeling is the third one. Now obviously feeling can be used as a verb, but in this case it's talking about the feeling that you get, and that in that case it's a noun. So it's those 3 nouns there that you need to get the mark. Number 42, which sentence uses the passive? The first one, the school proposed building a new playground. That's an active sentence. The issue was discussed at a council meeting. This one is the passive. The issue is what the subject of the sentence is about, and it was discussed. So because you've got that was discussed there, that's going to make it passive. So it's the second one here that is the right answer. Number 43, write the contracted form of the underlined words in the box below. Contraction is when we shorten something, we put an apostrophe in it and we make it shorter. So we shall not can be changed to we shan't. You make sure that you've got the apostrophe between the N and the T. We shan't do that again. Number 44, complete the sentence by writing a word formed from the root word music on each line. So basically we need to come up with a word that has the word music in it or is derived from that original word music to make sense. So every member of the Jones family was going to be musical, so they all played instruments or sang. But only Mr. Jones was a professional, it must be musician. And they're all derived from the word music. Number 45, what is the grammatical term for the underlined words in the sentence below? The new paintbrushes are in the box. It's actually a noun phrase because we've got our noun, paintbrush, we've described it, the new paintbrushes. And because it's a phrase, it's not a full sentence, it's just a few words that describe the noun paintbrush. So that is the answer, it's a noun phrase. Number 46, circle each word that should begin with a capital letter in the sentence below. This should be fairly straightforward for you at this point. So obviously all sentences start with a capital letter, so you'd circle that one here. When we visited the museum in Birmingham, you should know Birmingham obviously is a place, so that also needs a capital B, it's a proper noun. Gareth is also a proper noun, somebody's name. Arranged to travel by train with Aunt Laura. Now Aunt Laura is her name in this case, so Aunt needs a capital A, and Laura, because it's her first name, also needs a capital there. Number 47, circle the 3 determiners in the sentence below. Now remember, determiners can show possession or they can show quantity. So William didn't have any cereal. That's the quantity of cereal, so that one there is a determiner. In the house, he's only got one house, that's a quantity again, the house. So we went out to buy some cornflakes, so some is the other one. It's giving us a quantity of cornflakes. So it's those 3 there that you need to get the mark. Number 48, insert an apostrophe in the correct place in the sentence below. Pupils' coats should be hung up on the pegs. So in this case, we're looking at plural possessive. Because it's not just talking about one pupil, we're talking about several. So because it's plural possessive, the coats are belonging to all these pupils, we need to make sure that our apostrophe goes at the end of the word pupils, not between the L and the S, because we're talking about the plural version. So our apostrophe goes at the end of the S there. You don't need to put anything else in. Pupils, apostrophe coats, should be hung up on the pegs. Number 49, circle the 3 prepositions in the sentence below. Now, a preposition usually tells us where something is in relation to everything else. So in this case, we have after the game. So that will tell us where the story is taking place. It's after, so that's the first one. Omar and Alicia walked home with their grandparents. So when they're walking home, how are they doing that in relation to everything else? Well, they are with their grandparents. So with is the other preposition. And finally, who lived across the road? So across would be the last one because that's telling us where they are in relation to everything else. So it's those 3 prepositions that you need to get the mark. Number 50, circle the coordinating conjunction in the sentence below. You should know that fanboys is the list of coordinating conjunctions, so it has to be one of those. If we look at what we've got, we have if you want to enter the competition, you can send your idea by email or by post. Now the only word that we've got there that's in our fanboys list is or, so that's the one that you need to get the mark. I hope you found that video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as that really helps me out. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments box below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.